Today, again, a celebration of life for the former First Lady. And it becomes such a moving occasion when you watch family members now walk up. Shortly, the color guard, the military color guard, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, I believe, will all be there to carry in the First Lady's casket.
These are some of the Carter's grandchildren who are serving as honorary pallbearers as Mrs. Carter's casket is received at the church where the service is about to take place. We can also see there Pastor Tony Loudon, who is from Maranatha in Plains. He is the personal pastor of the Carters, who of course were very involved in the church. President Carter teaching Sunday school there for many, many years. As we see the back of the hearse door open and the casket about to emerge. Let's just be silent now as we watch these events unfold on the campus of Emory University at Glenn Memorial Church for the tribute service to former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who died recently at the age of 96. There we see inside the church, of course, President Biden, President Clinton, Mrs. Biden, Mrs. Clinton, along with Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Trump, the former First Ladies, all in attendance for today's event. The pianist is David Osborne. He's one of the Carters' favorite musicians. He has played for many presidents over the years, not just the Carters, many performances at the White House, and he is here to personally play some of the former First Lady's favorite songs for this occasion.
And we also do expect a musical performance by family friends, Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. Certainly, you could say the first family of country music.
That's right.
Will be there, and longtime friends of the Carters. It is always so moving to see the color guard, the pomp and circumstance of events like this, and also the gravity of it.